Vanessa Estrella, Fullerton School District. Thank you. Ryan Dack, South Orange County Community College Trustee. We have Janet Keogh Conklin, Council Member from La Palma. We have the Honorable Josh Duman, former State Senator. The candidate for Superintendent of Public Instruction. The Honorable Becky Gomez, former Tustin Mayor Pro Tem and Council Member, also member of the Board of Trustees for Orange County Department of Education. And the Honorable Al Jabbar, Chief of Staff for Orange County Supervisor Doug Chafee. He's a former trustee of the Anaheim Union High School District. We have the Honorable Frank Gomez, who was a former mayor of Montebello. Should be here in a little bit. Also, we have Rodia Shed from Buena Park School District. Thank you so much for being here. We also have Paulette Chafee, the ambassador to the supervisor's office. Thank you, Paulette. And she's a candidate for North Orange County Community College District. So thank you. Anybody else? I hopefully didn't miss anyone. Miguel Alvarez, Fullerton School District. Miguel, thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. Okay. So I wanted to just list the clubs that are here today. If you're from the Democrats of North Orange County, raise your hand. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Woo! If you're with the Lavender Democrats, thank you for being here. Stephanie Wade. The Leisure World Democrats, Mary Trump. The Democrats of Greater Irvine, Kev Avajian. The Orange County Young Democrats. The Central OC Democrats. The Newport Beach Democrats. Dr. Richard Brock and Jill Nelke. And the Iranian American Democrats of California, Suni Farokhian. She should be here in a little bit. So thank you. Thank you to all of you. Oh, we got the Anaheim Democrats. I want to thank all of you. Thank you for moving Democrats forward in Orange County. It's a big deal during a very difficult time. So thank you for everything that you're doing. And I'm going to introduce Secretary Becerra. It'll be a quick 5 minutes. And then he will speak, and afterwards you can ask questions, but mingle. We'll have one-on-one time. Excuse me for a second. So, I want to tell you, I'm excited and honored to introduce Secretary Becerra. He is a leader who has spent his 37-year career protecting and defending the rights and well-being of California's working families. He's been working for you this whole time. If you're here and you've never met him, now you have the opportunity to meet him for the first time. I was fortunate to meet him in 1990. I was a recent graduate of UCLA and an intern for Congressman Edward Roybal. We happened to share the same mentor, Henry Lozano. And Henry, dear friend of all of us, a lot of people who run for office, he taught us about loyalty while working for or as a member and the importance of taking care of staff. He used to tell us, and you'll remember this, a member is only as good as his or her staff. Like myself, Secretary Becerra always took those words to heart. I want to tell you, to this day, he's beloved by his former staff members, many who have served with him like all of his years in office. So I wanted to also say, at that time back then, he had already served when I met him as a legal advocate for mental health patients. He was a state Senate aide, and he was a California Deputy Attorney General running for state assembly. He was working in the Civil Rights Division at the time. And he was running for this downtown LA seat. He won that race and served 2 years in the legislature. And when Congress, I want to remind you about that race. Your motto was new, clean leadership. And he was running against some candidates who were unethical, and that's why we use the phrase. It worked. He won, and this is like the most ethical elected official that you can see here. I just have to say that because I've known him for so long, and he's served so many years, and I'm grateful that, for the work that he's done. When Mr. Roybal retired, he ran for the downtown LA congressional seat. I was so inspired by his work, and his wife, Dr. Catalina Reyes Becerra, she is a Stanford University and Harvard-trained physician who specializes in high-risk pregnancies and is a women's health advocate. So he volunteered day and night, myself and friends, and I remember meeting at 3 a.m. at the campaign headquarters, singing with the fired-up team of 40 volunteers at 3 a.m. to hang door hangers in Frogtown next to Dodger Stadium. And yes, there were frogs on the front yards of people's homes. And we were like, trying not to step on them. So we call Secretary Becerra because he's so ethical, the Boy Scout, the people that always have known him forever because he always follows the rules. And during that race, he wore out 2 pairs of tennis shoes knocking on doors. He won, and he served 12 terms, 24 years. Think about it, 24 years flying back and forth, serving the people of California. It wasn't only his downtown district that he represented, all of California. And during his tenure, he was the first Latino to serve as the powerful House Ways and Means chair, and he was also the ranking member of the Ways and Means Subcommittee on Social Security and ranking member of the Subcommittee on Health. He's a graduate of Stanford undergrad and law school. He's the son of a proud father who I was fortunate to meet years ago, who was a day laborer turned construction worker. His father helped build California's infrastructure. He built ditches and highways. His mother was born in Jalisco, Mexico, and immigrated to the United States after marrying his father. Through his family's lived experience, he's always fought for the ability of every family to have the assurance of care, as his own family had when he was growing up. And I want to say this, as a member of the powerful Committee on Ways and Means, he introduced the Medicare Savings and Program Improvement Act of 2007. That act expanded cost-sharing subsidies for low-income seniors who receive both Medicare and Medicaid benefits by increasing the amount of resources they could receive. He championed provisions of the Medicare Improvements for Patients and Providers Act of 2008. This required doctors who perform imaging to be accredited and trained to ensure patient safety. He was one of the original co-sponsors of the Affordable Care Act, which strengthened Medicare and lowered costs for seniors. We all know that that was a big fight, and it was a huge victory, and he was at the helm of it. And as California's Attorney General, he sued Trump over 122 times. He helped promote competition by taking on a number of pharmaceutical companies that restricted competition through pay-for-delay schemes. He held companies accountable for legal violations for not protecting patients' health information, and took action early in the pandemic to keep Californians safe by using his authority to protect workers from exposure to COVID-19. He secured key safeguards for frontline healthcare workers' rights, and took on fraudsters trying to take advantage of people during the pandemic. In addition, he cracked down on Medicare and Medicaid fraud, acted to combat the opioid crisis, including holding drug makers accountable, won an unprecedented $575 million settlement against one of the largest health systems in California, and led the 3-year federal court fight to save the Affordable Care Act, and with it, the protections of the 133 million Americans with pre-existing conditions. Thank you. And on the environmental front, he had challenged the rollback of the Endangered Species Act, the Migratory Bird Treaty Act, and blocked efforts to raise the Shasta Dam. He sued to stop the repeal of the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, DACA. Thank you. Huge. deny millions of women access to cost-free birth control and for halting critical health care subsidies under the ACA. Mr. Secretary Becerra also pursued legal action against companies for wage theft and employee misclassification, and filed lawsuits against the U.S. Department of Education for failing to provide promised loan relief to students defrauded by for-profit institutions. Thank you. This is it. Secretary Becerra has been a servant for the people of California throughout his 37-year career. There is no one running for California governor that has served in our state legislature, our Congress, as Attorney General, and at the national level as Secretary of Health and Human Services. Let me say it again. There is no one currently in the California gubernatorial race qualified to lead California in this manner. Nobody has these credentials. We're very fortunate. And we've never had somebody, like I said, with this many credentials. I was thinking about it and I was like, God, in my lifetime, I've never seen anyone like you. Thank you. And I also just wanted to point out, you know, as our Attorney General, let me back up here for a second. He cares about people. He understands their suffering, and I've seen him rejoice in their triumphs. When he speaks at an event, he'll take the time to speak to every person waiting, even if he's going to be late to the next event. Everyone matters. Secretary Becerra will continue to bring reliable and dependable service to all Californians, as he always has. On day one, I know he'll walk into the job with this experience and relationships throughout our nation at every level of government to protect our families and ensure that we have every opportunity to succeed. He hails from a multi-generational household and understands the needs of families. Like many of us, including myself, he and his wife, Catalina, are taking care of his elderly mother. He's one of us, and I asked everyone in this room, you know, I did this for the love of Secretary Becerra and his wife, and I ask you to trust me on this one. After you hear from Secretary Becerra, you'll know why it's critical to elect him in November 2026. I want to introduce you to California's next governor, Secretary Xavier Becerra.
Francis, I guess I could just drop the mic now, right? Whatever she said, yeah, I agree. Thank you, Francis. Francis had been talking about trying to gather folks for a while, and I'm glad she was willing to follow through, because all of you know, especially if you are parts of Democratic clubs, you know how much work goes into this. And so to each and every one of you, especially those of you who hold some type of elected or appointed office, for Supervisor Chafee, for former State Senator Newman, who's now running, of course, for Superintendent of Public Instruction, for all of you who are either candidates or elected or appointed already, I want to say thank you for taking the time to be here. For those of you who are on civic leadership positions within the Democratic Party, for example, within your own local organization, thank you for what you do, because you know how much work it is. By the way, I've never gotten so much applause for being so litigious in my life. But I appreciate it. And I think it's because we understand what we're trying to do. We're trying to make sure there's a break. There's some kind of wall that stops this country from going into demise. And sometimes you have to use every tool at your disposal. When I was Attorney General, that's what I had to do. We tried to work with the Trump administration on all of these issues, from women's reproductive rights when they were trying to deny care for contraception coverage under the ACA, to they were trying to get rid of our smog emissions, tailpipe standards. They were trying to force us to do what they're doing today, these immigration raids, and we said our state and local law enforcement agencies don't do that. They sued us. They actually took $60 million away from us for community policing, because we would not participate and I was stopping our local law enforcement from engaging, and so they took $60 million from us. We got it back because I sued them, and we won, but they tried every means possible to come at us, and we stood up, as we're standing up now. And so let me just mention a few things, because there are enough people here that I would like to make sure I hear from you. Because the fact that you've come is, I appreciate it. And I hope that means you are very, very interested in this election coming up. Not just for governor, down the ballot as well, all the initiatives. So I look forward to your questions and your comments. Just a few points. First, I don't know about you, but this election really is the most important election we're facing. You know, we see that every year, right? And every year it seems to be so true. I don't know if I can find another election which has been so important to the future of not just our families, but to our nation. And so it will be important to try to move forward together. In that regard, I will tell you that one of the most important things we can do is have a leader in California, because that leader in California will essentially be the leader in the nation for how we will get out of this mess. And here is what I will say to you, and I certainly hope you ask questions about this. If you're looking for a show horse who says he or she is a leader, you know, the shiny object that comes out and sounds pretty good, or if you're looking for someone who knows how to really get out there and scream a mic, you know, the carnival barker who can sell you everything, including that oasis in the desert, then I'm not going to win for governor. But if you're looking for someone when you're on that plane called the United States of America and California, the state of California, and you're feeling a lot of turbulence on that plane, or all of a sudden you're taking those big dives where you're wondering if you're ever going to make it, and you're starting to say your prayers, and you wish you had said you loved all your family before you left for that flight. If you're looking for someone in the cockpit who knows how to land the plane, then whether it is getting us out of the worst pandemic any of us have ever seen in our lives, which is what I had to do when I landed in the secretary position at HHS during the height of the COVID pandemic, whether it is being able to negotiate with the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world for lower drug prices, and we succeeded for Medicare, in some cases dropping the price of the 10 most expensive drugs by up to 80%. If you're looking for someone who knows how to give people a chance to have access to care, because when I took over as secretary in March of 2021, we were losing health insurance coverage because so many people were losing their jobs as a result of COVID. And when they lose their jobs, they lose their insurance. And so we were going from nose-diving health insurance coverage to, by the time we left the administration, the Biden administration, and I finished my term, we had reached the highest level of health insurance coverage the nation had ever seen, more than 300 million people. If you're looking for someone who says they know how to fight against Trump, fight against this crisis in prices that are going so high that no one can afford to live here, then look for someone who's actually been in the fight, doesn't just say they know how to fight. Because see, the most important thing about the fight is not the fight, it's the win. It's the win. You need to know how to win. Because you can fight all you want. You can shadow box and you'll never get hurt. And you can step in the ring. But if you've never faced that opponent, you better be ready. And so when someone says, I took on Donald Trump once as a member of Congress, I just say, hurry up. You had about 122 more to catch up. If you want to say you know how to fight a guy who's trying to come at California, then show them how you prevailed all the way to the Supreme Court. The way I had to when Donald Trump decided to eliminate the Affordable Care Act because he wouldn't defend it, because Republican state attorneys, generals, decided to sue in court because they couldn't do it in Congress after dozens of votes, so they went to court through the Republican AGs in the nation. And when Trump was assigned as the federal government to represent ACA and defend it, I stood up, I went to the Fifth Circuit Court in Louisiana and said, Your Honor, I don't believe we're going to get the defense we deserve in California. I would like to intervene in this case on behalf of the people of California as the Attorney General. I was granted the permission to intervene in that case. I then ultimately brought about another 20 Democratic AGs with me, and together we took that case all the way to the Supreme Court. And obviously the ACA is still here, so you know we beat Donald Trump in the Supreme Court. And Francis mentioned to you, now again, just the fight. It's not just the win at one stage in the district court, in the trial court. It's not just a win in the appellate court at the mid-level. You got to win at the top, baby. And that means the Supreme Court. And when Donald Trump said that he was going to eliminate the DACA program for Dreamers, which is not a law, it's just an executive order. And I think we know now enough about executive orders to know a president can sign and to make it issue the executive order, but a president can also retract an executive order. Any president can retract an executive order of any other president. And so that's what Donald Trump said he was going to do. And so that's what he tried to do. And when I started talking to my Democratic AG friends about that, I said, Javier, this is an executive order. This is not a law. How are you going to stop him from getting rid of an executive order, which is the privilege of every president? I said, they still have to do it the right way. They still have to follow the rules. So I'm going to sue. Will you join me? At first, they didn't want to join because they didn't think it was a winner. Eventually, some did more out of principle than anything else. We won at the trial court level. We won at the appellate court level. And then we got to the Supreme Court. DACA is still with us, so once again, in the Supreme Court, we beat Donald Trump. We fought and we won. And so, what I will tell you is, that same fight, with that same winning percentage, is what we now have to use not only to go after Washington, D.C., and keep them from trying to change who we are in California, but we also have to do this when it comes to building more homes so that people have a place they can afford to live in and buy. We have to do more to make sure we maintain health care, because Donald Trump gutted $1 trillion out of the Medicaid program, what we call Medi-Cal. And a whole bunch of Californians are going to lose their coverage if we don't act. And I've already committed at California's next healthcare governor, and I know enough about healthcare, that we are not going backwards. We're not going to tell any Californian that they're losing their health care. And you know why I can do that? Because I know we have the money. The health system has the money. We spend more for health care in this country and in this state than anywhere in the world. We just don't use it right. And what we're going to do is we're going to tell those healthcare providers and those insurers, come together, tighten your belts a bit. But here's what I guarantee you. If you help me find the money to make sure I don't have to kick anyone off of health care, then I'm going to guarantee you coverage. The state will be your backstop. And I can do that because if I don't cover those people and they lose their insurance, they will wait to go get their health care. They will tell their child, honey, hold on. Is the pain too bad? Here's some medicine over the counter. How does that help? They'll wait until it gets so bad that their child says, Mommy, Daddy, I just can't take this anymore. And they will go to the hospital, but they won't go in with an appointment. They'll walk in through the most expensive doors in medicine, the emergency room. And when they walk into those doors with the little money they have, that they have to pull out of their pockets and their savings, it won't be enough. And guess what? That's when you and I pay. You and I pay as taxpayers or as private health insurance holders, because the hospitals will pass on those unpaid costs to insurance companies to cover their costs. They got to figure out a way to do that, otherwise they got to close their doors. So here's my bargain for them. Work with me and I will guarantee you paying customers. They may not pay 100% of what you're getting today, but 95% of what you're getting today is better than 0%. And so work with me and you will have millions of Californians, when they walk through your door, they will be paying customers and they won't use the emergency room. That's how we're going to save California's health care. and we will do this together. But I can say that because I've been in that fight. I have won. I know what it takes. I ran the largest public health enterprise in the world. How big is the Department of Health and Human Services? Everyone knows that the Department of Defense has a large budget, right? Some would say too large. The Department of Defense's budget is big. Everyone knows that the state of California has the largest budget of any of the 50 states. The state of California has a large budget, including a large deficit, but a large budget. You can take the large budget of the Department of Defense and the large budget of the state of California and combine them. And those two budgets are still smaller than my budget at the Department of Health and Human Services. And for 4 years in a row, in the midst of a pandemic, having to try to give Americans back their health insurance coverage and negotiating against the largest pharmaceutical companies for lower drug prices, I balanced my budget 4 years in a row. My budget was 5 times bigger than the state of California. And so when you're looking for someone who's going to say to you, I'm going to fight, and I'm going to build those homes, and I'm going to save that health care, and I'm going to improve education, ask them, show me where you've won those fights. Because I want to know, I'm sitting in this plain of California, and I feel a lot of turbulence. I want to know you can land this plane. I won't be the shiny object, the show horse. I will not be the carnival barker. I will be that pilot who knows how to land the plane for California. That's why I want to be your governor. That's why I hope you'll give me a chance. And now I hope you'll ask me lots of great questions. So thank you very much for coming. Look forward to doing it.
I just wanted to, I left out one elected official, the Honorable Jose Trinidad Castañeda, council member from Portland Park, retired. I also wanted to thank Jorge Gavino for helping. Gaston Castellanos, the gentleman with the camera right there. Gus, thank you for being at the heart of all of this. Guide. So I want Barbara Loera and Manny Loera, thank you for helping out. I appreciate you. Jordan Shade, where are you? Thank you for helping get communications out. Really, really appreciate it. And Ms. Shade right here, she's Rossmore Community Services District new chair, just elected chair, right? So thank you everyone for helping out, and now it's time to mingle. Thank you very, very much.
Take any questions. If you have any questions, yeah. A few questions. Well, I'll try to be much briefer in answering questions than I was in giving you questions. Yes, please, give us your name.
Hi, Kim Barlow. I noticed that the legislature just killed a bill to reduce the amount of rent increases annually from 10% to 5% plus CPI in the state of California. Housing affordability is such a huge issue, and how would you deal with that problem?
So we want to make sure that when we talk housing, we can talk both ownership and renting. And on the ownership side, the supply and demand issue. The more we have supply, the less demand will drive up prices so quickly. So we do want to make sure we have a growing supply. The second thing we have to do on home ownership is make it so that people who are renting, they're already essentially paying the equivalent of a mortgage. What they're missing is the down payment. And so California can grow the programs we have to help people who don't have enough for a down payment. So for example, if you don't have enough for a 20% down payment, you have to borrow a second time to come up with a 20%. That second loan that you take out has a higher interest rate. Why doesn't California say, we will subsidize you so that your second loan will not be at any higher interest rate? So essentially, you're going to take out one mortgage. What you do then is you owe California and taxpayers, once you sell the house and you gain equity, you owe us back the money we lent you essentially at zero interest. And that lets you have the down payment money you need to get into that house. So every month when you're already making that rental payment, from now on you're making payment into your investment. And that's the equity you build, which lets you actually create wealth. Because without buying your first home, most families in America never develop wealth. On the renter side, we have to do two things. One, we have to make sure that we allow there to be a vibrant apartment market. That may mean we have to watch how the apartment industry is handling its affairs. Do we want to see Wall Street buying up a whole bunch of buildings and then hiking rent because they essentially cornered the market? Do we want to make sure that we have enough availability for long-term rental versus these short-term vacation type rentals? We have to make sure that we measure all of that. At the same time, we have to make sure, especially because of the shortage of good housing, that we're not letting rental units be used to gouge people because they're desperate for something. Finally, you weigh the interest of those who own the properties. Now, if you're an owner of a small rental, even a small apartment complex, you're going to have far more sympathetic ears for me than if you're a mega owner coming from Wall Street. Because if that's how you make some income, I want to be protective of your ability to survive. My mom owns, by the way, my mom, dad never had a chance to go to college, but my mom was just a top-notch cookie. And the little money they had, they saved up enough to buy their own home. By the way, their first home cost them $6,500, 1956. But then again, my dad's salary, I think, was 30 cents an hour. So it's not a lot. But over time, my mom would keep saving up. And then she bought another little home, and then another little home. And so today, everyone wants to live at my mom's place because her rents are so low. But she says, I'm not trying to make a lot of money. I just want to make sure I'm doing well. And that's what we need, and I think we can make that happen. So we balance all the interests, but we have to make sure that those protections are in place. And you're looking at a former enforcer of the law as Attorney General. I'll make sure that no one is taking advantage of anyone else. Fair break for everybody, but do it right. Yes?
Hi, I'm Sudi Faroknia. I'm the president of Iranian American Democrats of California. I have two quick questions.
Yes.
One is that our Attorney General, just like you, has done a great job suing Trump on the macro level. But what we have struggled is to get attention or any assistance at the micro level on the hate crimes by residents of California that are following the narrative of Trump and attacking their neighbors, and so that's one. And so I'm so happy that you talked about healthcare, because the only beef I have with Gavin Newsom is the fact that he killed CalCare, and I hope you will support it.
So quickly on the issue of enforcing of the laws. When I was Attorney General, we took on a number of cases. A quick example, remember when COVID hit and everyone was told, don't stay home, don't go to work, go to school, unless you're an essential worker. And what we saw was, who were the essential workers? The lowest paid workers. The folks who clean the buildings, the folks who pick the crops, and the folks who are on the assembly lines. And what we were finding is that too many companies were not abiding by the protections necessary for those workers. And those were the folks who were dying first, because they were the ones that were contracting COVID before we knew how to treat it. I went in and said, you cannot do that. You have an obligation to provide those so-called essential workers, they're not dispensable workers, with the protections. So I went in and took on that charge of trying to ensure that the companies provided them with the correct care. And Foster Farms, which a lot of chickens, they have a plant up in the by the Stockton, Modesto area. We went in because they were not providing their workers with masks and the right equipment, allowing them to wash their hands. And so it was simple stuff. We were going to have a meeting with them to discuss this, but they weren't going to allow their employees to be in the meeting. I said, how come we have a meeting about the employees and you're not going to invite the employees? So we changed all that. When I was Secretary of HHS, we made sure that everyone in the country, regardless of income, zip code, or status, had access to the COVID vaccine. 700 million shots went into the arms of Americans during our 4 years. Not a one person had to pay 1 penny for that COVID vaccine. And that's why we can gather here today. So we will take that on. The second question was on healthcare. I think I gave you on healthcare quite a bit. What I simply say is this: we spend more money than any other nation in the world on healthcare. California spends more money on healthcare than any other state in the nation. We have money. There's too many middlemen in the system. I know it because I was secretary of the largest health enterprise in the world, and I know it because as AG, I sued one of the largest health hospital networks in California, Northern California, called Sutter Health. Sutter Health was they were gaming the system. They were, because they're so big, and they had a lot of good hospitals, every insurance company, every employer plan for healthcare wanted to have access to those good hospitals. And what Sutter would do is, if you want access to that great hospital, then you have to also accept access to these other hospitals. And all these folks would say, well, we don't have any members who live in those areas. They said, well, if you want access to this one, you have to pay to have access in those others. So the plans and employers and workers were paying way more for their health insurance coverage than they needed to, because Sutter had the power, the leverage to say, you want in here, you gotta tell me you're gonna pay me for here, over here. And that's what we took on, we beat them. For over a year and a half, they kept saying, we've done nothing wrong, we've done nothing wrong. And I kept saying, well, then we'll see you in court. The first day of trial, they gave us $575 million for doing nothing wrong. So I will tell you that you can prove that you can make this happen. You just gotta know how to fight and then win. Okay? Yes, sir.
Jeff Mio, Chino Valley Democratic Club.
Amen. Chino, yeah.
Everybody in this room knows that California pays more to the federal government than it gets back in
Yes, sir.
services. Is there any way that we could withhold a little bit? Because we know that if there's another wildfire or earthquake, the Trump administration is going to withhold FEMA money from us.
Yeah, Jeff, I'm going to put you on my team because we're exploring that as we speak. For 20 years, I served on the Ways and Means Committee in the House of Representatives. Ways and Means Committee is the tax writing committee. And so I did tax policy for over 20 years. Here's the one thing I will tell you. It is tough to distinguish between federal tax policy and state tax policy. We can't change what the federal policy will be. But what we are exploring is, are there ways so that, based on the definition of federal tax laws, we can make sure that we exclude some of our activity from what would be considered federally taxable income. And that way we could try to preserve some of the money. Because you're absolutely right, there is no state that provides the federal treasury with more money than the taxpayers of the state of California. And we deserve our fair share, and we will sue, we will fight, we will do everything we can to make sure we get it. But again, you have to know how to fight. Don't have somebody deal with tax policy who's never done tax policy. It helps to have somebody who did tax policy, who fought Donald Trump, and who beat him. And that's where I think it's so important that our next governor know how to land the plane the moment, the first day they sit there as governor. Yeah. Yes?
Hi, my name is Margaret Judah, and I'm chair of the Arab American and co-chair for California Democrats for Justice in Palestine. And as a Muslim American, a Palestinian American, Arab American, our communities really have a lot of distrust in the Democratic Party, although folks are re-registering, there's a lot of distrust. So here we have over 20 people running for governor, and we're like, who should we go with, who should we trust, right? Because we've known people that betrayed us before. And, you know, a lot of members of my community like you, let you know that. So I'm wondering, if you were governor and AB 715 came to your desk, do you know what bill that is?
No, tell me what it is.
That is the ethnic studies bill block, the bill that blocked ethnic studies, which allowed specific histories, specifically Palestinian histories, not to be taught in schools, and made it an issue. Would you have signed up to that? They did it under the guise of anti-Semitism, and I'm in no way disputing anti-Semitism isn't a problem. But it's not okay to take away power from the schools to be able to teach histories that are relevant, that are intentionally being dismissed so that we can continue the genocide in Gaza and what's happening in Palestine. So my question to you as governor, if you became governor, as future governor, if you became the governor, Newsom did something right, and he vetoed SB 771, which is if you spoke about Israel, they could take legal action against you over any post you did on the internet. He vetoed that even though it passed the state legislature. So he did good on it. What would you do on AB 715? He signed that into law.
And AB 715 says you cannot teach history?
Yeah, so basically what it does, it takes away sovereignty from the schools and gives it to the state to allow what is allowed to be taught and not allowed to be taught. Specifically, I'm sure there are other histories that will be impacted, but specifically, me as a Palestinian American, my history will not be taught for whatever reasons, the contrary, because.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, so let me start from the baseline. The facts in history will speak for themselves. And we have a First Amendment that says we have a right to understand what's out there. No one can try to keep us from learning. And so I would be absolutely against anything that prevented us from having our history books reflect the types of teaching we need so we understand what every community has experienced in the state of California. And we're a very diverse state. Recognize that I became an elected official at the time that bilingual education was under attack. And to try to defend bilingual education was to essentially put your career in politics at stake. But I fought all the way through for bilingual education. In fact, when I got to Congress as a freshman member, I asked the chairman of the committee, Democrats were in control at the time, when we were in the process of rewriting the Elementary and Secondary Education Act at the federal level, I asked him, could I please have Title VII and work on that? Title VII is bilingual education. I said, I would like to be the lead to do that. He had no problem. He said, sure, take it, because it was a hot potato. But I wanted it. And so, absolutely, I would protect the interest of any community to have the truth said about them.
May I give you a follow-up question? Not
Very quickly,
this,
very quickly.
Specifically regarding Muslim American community, what would you do as governor to make this Muslim American community feel like an integral part of being American and feel protected like they matter? What would you do as governor to make
Sit at the table to discuss whether it's the books, the curriculum, or whatever is distressing a community, whether it's Muslim community, the Jewish community, the Latino community, Asian community, it makes no difference to me. If you're telling me that the state is trying to abridge your opportunity to learn, especially about your own history and culture, you're sitting right next to me. And I will not be for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think you could talk to a lot of the friends in the Muslim American community who will tell you where I've taken stands to be supportive of those efforts, because we have seen how people have been targeted, especially under this administration, simply because of who they are. Yeah, no, absolutely. Hey, this is California, as I said. We will fight, but what you want is a governor who will win. I'll try to, even only one more question. I'll stick around and maybe take a few more when folks come up and say hello. Yes, sir.
So my name's Eric. I just came from a UDW member, and some of the deals with IHSS.
Yes.
Some of the programs that are at most risk right now from this administration are ones that are jointly administered and funded by the state and the federal government, like Medicare, like IHSS.
Yes.
What would you as governor do to help support and protect those from attacks or incompetence from the administration we have right now?
And for those who don't know what IHSS stands for, it's In-Home Support Services. And what I will tell you about in-home support services is that it is what's coming in healthcare for American families. It is what we need in America for our families. Because no one, including my father, who's now 6 years past, want to die in a hospital. They want to die in dignity, in their home, with their family. In-home support services is California's program to make sure that we can provide care in the home of that person with possible a family member, and if not a family member, someone who's trained to offer that care, which, by the way, is tough. You need training, because sometimes you're picking up a person who can wait quite a bit or has pretty intense, severe medical conditions, and you're providing them with the help that they cannot offer themselves. Just to give you a quick example on IHSS. When I was Attorney General, the Trump administration tried to prevent me from allowing the Medicaid, what we call Medi-Cal here, Medi-Cal money that comes into California that the state uses to pay for IHSS programs. They wanted to deny the state the ability to let the IHSS workers, UDW and others, be able to deduct their dues as a union and some of their health benefits directly from the payment that the state was going to make. Essentially make it really efficient so that you wouldn't have to go through some bureaucratic process to be able to collect the money and then have to pay the dues or pay the benefits. No, do it directly through the state. The state's going to be the pass-through. They wanted to deny us that opportunity. folks from UDW and other the unions kicked us and said, this is gonna ruin us and our ability to actually keep a workforce, because if we can't get union dues and if we don't give them benefits, they're not gonna stay in the union. And so I sued the Trump administration, and we beat them because they were doing something that was lawful. It was also meant to attack the union. And so we stood up for them. As HHS secretary, what did I do? I passed a rule, a regulation within the Medicaid program, Medi-Cal here, that said that at least 80% of that Medicaid dollar that taxpayers are spending for those in-home support services programs must be spent to pay the salaries of the people doing the work. Because what we were finding was that some of these organizations and businesses were taking way more money than that. And then they were paying their workers very low wages. What's the average wage of an IHSS worker? $17 or $18 an hour for doing the work of caring for your loved one, to make sure they're not spending the rest of their life in a hospital. $17 or $18. Anybody here live on 17 or 18 bucks an hour? And that's what and yet the reason they were being paid such low wages is because in some cases, some of these outfits were skimming so much of the money, taxpayer money, your money, that's supposed to go to pay for the services. And so I said, no. Let's institute a rule that says that at least 80% of that taxpayer dollar must be used to actually pay the people doing the work, not just someone who's the in-between and gets to skim money because they own the business and then have somebody else do the work. And so, to me, in-home support services is the future. Because what did I tell you? We're going to be able to keep everybody with their health care coverage in California. Why? Because we're going to go away from the really expensive care. If I can keep your loved one, your grandmother, your disabled brother from having to stay in a hospital or a costly institutional facility and be at home, not only am I saving you money, but I'm getting them care from the people who love them most. And I believe that's how we will ultimately be able to afford to absorb, at least for now, some of those cuts from the Trump administration until we can get that money back. But meanwhile, I need to be able to lift up programs like in-home support services so we can do the things that cost less money. My mom used to always say to me when I was a kid, and now I use it all the time because I didn't get it when I was a kid, but now I get it. She would say, "Mijito, siempre es mejor prevenir que remediar." My son, it is always better to prevent than to remediate a problem. Another great American said it even better, but he said it about 150, 60 years ago. It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. Frederick Douglass said that back in the 1840s and 1850s. And we are today spending so much money repairing broken men and women in our state and in our country, when we should have spent it at the beginning to build strong kids. That's what I want to do. IHSS is helping us build strong families, because even those who are in the last stages of their lives or who have really severe disabling conditions deserve to have the best life possible. And the best way to do that is not in a hospital, not in some sterile institution, it's at home. And that's what we're going to fight for, and that's why this work that UDW and others do is so important. So thank you for that question. I thank you all for having come. I'm going to stay a little while. Let's say hello. You've been great to come. Please stay involved. Prop 50, by the way, got upheld by the courts. So we're on our way. Thank you very much.